because everything in the, what I heard about your book is coming true now, 25 years later. And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, I'll go on eBay and get it. He didn't say anything. The day after it got on the news that he passed on, I go to get the mail. I go open the mailbox, and here's a little box package from Pahrump. I bring it back into my compound. I open it up, and guess what it was? The book. He sent it to me. And I'll tell you what.
Oh, my God.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I went through Vietnam. Never cried. The last time I cried, prior to that day when I opened that, was probably in the first or second grade. And,
wow.
And I had lost my mom and dad. I felt bad, but I always learned, you tough it up. And I never cried. I never would do that because of the 8 kids I had. And I tell you, I cried like a baby. And I tell you.
Well, yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with crying.
Well, I think that my dad couldn't stand heaven without Art Bell, and that's why Art left, is my dad came and got him.
Well, hopefully they're in a great place. But,
I think so.
Yeah. So a little bit more about your book. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And hopefully you're not like some guests that write a book, and I ask questions about their book and say, can you tell us a little bit about your book? They go, no, I can't do that because then I'll give stuff away and then nobody will buy the book. Actually, if you can tell us a little bit about your book, it's going to get more people interested. And as it was a 700 and some page book, they definitely are going to be interested.
Well, it has. So what I do, well, I'll tell you how it all began, because I had no intention of actually writing a book. I was writing posts on a Bewitched message board called harpiesbazaar.com. Harpies Bazaar was the witch magazine that Endora would read that was like Harper's Bazaar, but it was Harpies Bazaar. And so I would write about an episode on its 40th anniversary. So this started in 2004. And I wrote about the first episode, and then the second episode is where they buy their house, which is an iconic house. And so then it just kept on going, and I'm kind of obsessive compulsive, and if I start something, I have to finish it. And so I just kept on writing it, and everybody really liked my posts. I'd write the reviews of what I thought of the episodes, and like I mentioned earlier, I don't like every episode. So I would write what I didn't like about the episodes, and people would ask me if I was going to publish them in a book, and I would just offhandedly say, yeah, I'll do that, and just never really thought about it. But then in 2010, Paula Abdul, who is, she was famous in the early 2000s for American Idol, but she's originally a huge pop star and a choreographer, and I love her to death. She challenged her fans to take a goal that you didn't think you could obtain and work at it until you knew that you had exhausted every effort in getting to it. And then you could actually say, I worked towards this, and you would either end up having accomplished the goal or just knowing that you tried your best. And so I decided, well, I guess I'll see if I can get this book published. And I knew that J.K. Rowling, that wrote Harry Potter, had gone to hundreds of publishers, and I didn't want to go to hundreds, but I set a goal of 100 publishers that I would send the manuscript to. And if all hundreds declined me, then I put in my effort and I was done. Well, Gary, the first publisher that I sent this to was Bear Manor Media, that ended up publishing the book. And so it got published in 2012. And there's the book that you have the cover on your website is actually the second edition of the book for the 50th anniversary that came out in 2014. And so it's really been a trip to think that I'm a published author and that this book is all over the world and that so many fans enjoy it.
Well, there's so many people out there that remember the Bewitched show, so I mean, people like reading about, the show and stuff like that, and, the episodes and what happened to it and stuff like that. And, how long did it take you, David, to write the book?
So it actually took me as long as Bewitched was on the air, 8 years. And that was a lot of time. Like I would go to my regular job during the day, and then I would come home and I would just get on my laptop and just start typing. While, I mean, I might be watching TV with my roommates at the time, but other times I'd just be in my room and I'd just be typing, and I had to edit. I mean, I know it's a huge book now, but when I had finished it originally, before all the edits, it was over 1,100 pages.
Wow.
And so that was kind of hard to get it condensed into something that would be manageable.
Yeah, well, 700 and some pages. You know, here's the thing. I get a lot of guests on the show that write books. And I have had, not a lot, but a great number of them. I ask them, how long did it take you to write the book? And, you know, their book's around 300 pages on the average. And I've heard everything from, about a week and a half to, a year. I don't think a person can write a good quality book in a week and a half. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but
No, I agree with you. And also, I learned so much writing this book. I learned that I needed to take criticism better.
Well, when you wrote the book, did you have your friends read any of the book, as you were writing the chapters, anything, and to get feedback or anything?
Well, no, and that's the problem. I should have done that, but I didn't want that to happen, and now I realize I should have taken their criticism, because it would have made it a better book. But it's still a great book, I think.
Wow. And again, how does it start out? Because you didn't send me a copy, so I'm at loss of words to ask you certain questions, because all I know is from what little I gather, researching it on Amazon, which it seems to be very popular. How's the book start out?
Well, it just was the posts week by week on the message board, and then those readers asked me if I would get it published, and I decided to do that.
Well, you accomplished. I mean, to get how many people send manuscripts to publishers and they don't get published, and that's why a lot of people nowadays do self-published books. And I'm not really into them self-published books. I'll be honest with you. But
I'm not. I kind of like, it doesn't make my story seem all that great to be like, well, my first publisher took it, because I'd like to have a story where, it took me years, and that my very last 100th publisher, they're the ones that decided to do it. But I guess someone was watching over me and decided that my first publisher would be it.
Well, what's the first chapter of the book like? And then I'm going to ask you, after the next break, what was the middle of the book like, and what's kind of like the end of the book? So we're not giving any plots away, but how's it start out? It kind of lead us into the book a little bit.
So I begin the book with, my acknowledgments page, where I thank everybody that helped me, but then I also have a preface about setting up how it was that I became a fan, which was watching the show with my mother when I was young in the afternoon reruns, and learning about history, and then how I came to write the book. And then I wrote about the time. I wrote an introduction about the times that it was happening in, and lead up to. It's not so much broken up into chapters as it is. It's just broken up into seasons, and then each episode I write about the night that it aired, and I do a recap of the episode, and then I write my review of the episode, and also any favorite quotes from that episode, or any pieces of trivia that I found through my research. And I had a lot of pictures that at the time were rare, but as time goes on, they're not so rare anymore. But my book has over 70 pictures in it, so everybody loves a picture book too.
Oh yeah. Did you? I know you mentioned you got to know one of the actors. Did you actually interview any of the actors or anything that was on the show to get their feedback and to get information? Not
directly. Like it was it was mainly from magazine interviews that they had done, and I didn't really meet any of them until after the book was published. And so in 2013, I was able to go to the Hollywood show and be considered a celebrity and sit at the table with Bernard Fox that played Dr. Bombay, and Erin Murphy and her twin sister Diane Murphy that played Tabitha, and David Lawrence, who played Tabitha's younger brother Adam. And then there was one of Darren's secretaries, Betty, played by Heather Woodruff Perry. She sat at my table with me, and they all signed autographs, and I sold my book and signed my books, and I gave all of them a copy of the book. And all of them only had really good things to say about it.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned Tabitha, the little girl, right? Her twin sister played the same part. Didn't she end up with her own show for a while when she got older?
So there was a spin-off called Tabitha that happened in 1977, only 5 years after Bewitched ended. And it was Lisa Hartman that ended up marrying country singer Clint Black. She played the part of Tabitha as a young adult in L.A., working at a TV station, much like Mary Tyler Moore did. And they switched it up on Tabitha to have that Adam was her older brother and that Adam was immortal. That's a point of contention among Bewitched fans, is whether or not Adam was a warlock. And it's because the episode where we learn that he's a warlock, I feel like, I'm not sure what happened the night that it aired, but I feel like something happened where it might have been cut off before the ending came to show that he was a warlock. But in the episode, his grandpa Maurice casts a spell on him to make it so that he has witchcraft, but then later he takes it off, and then Adam shows that he really does have powers. But on Tabitha, he was the mortal so that he could provide the point of conflict, because he didn't like Tabitha using her powers. And it only lasted 13 episodes, and Elizabeth Montgomery had said that lots of people wrote into her wondering why Tabitha was all of a sudden 22 years old when she should have only been 13. And Elizabeth was never on it, and she always wrote back to everybody and said that she didn't have anything to do with it. But Bernard Fox appeared on it twice as Dr. Bombay. And then Sandra Gould, that played the second Mrs. Kravitz, she and George Tobias, who played Mr. Kravitz, they appeared on there as the Kravitzes. So it's a pretty cute show. Of course, it's not as great as Bewitched, but I think it has its own merits. They used a lot of the same sound effects, and they had a lot of the same directors and writers too.
Okay, Dave. Okay, we're going to have to take a break. We'll be back with Dave Pierce in about 8 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website, www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, in March, 1380 AM, 105.FM, new stations. We'll be back.
Watching while the cities rise from the collapse that we left when the sun beat it down to the valley. Living in the strangest of times, you and me. Watching while the cities rise and fall like rain. Seems that I knew you before, but when can I do you again? Funny how the colors bend when lifetimes start to blend. And we've been spinning mysteries bandana. Oh, living in the strangest of times, you and me. Watching while the cities rise and fall like rain. Fall like rain, fall like rain, fall like rain into the darkness.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark wants to give a big shout out to all the